Hi, my name is Jennifer Berdugo. I'm an Associate State Director with AARP California. I'm here today to host a conversation with the candidates. AARP is a national nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We've been fighting for over 60 years on the issues that matter most to older adults and their families, and to ensure that their voices are heard. Our members have told us over and over again that one of their top priorities is being able to choose where they live and remain in their homes and communities as they age, what we call aging in place. 73% of Americans aged 45 and over would like to age in place, and this percentage increases to 90% when considering those above the age of 65. However, many often can't do so because their community was not built or designed to support aging in place. A livable, age-friendly community must offer a sense of safety and security. It should also have diverse housing and transportation options that are affordable, accessible, and have features and services for people of all ages. Fortunately, in 2019, the City of Sacramento enrolled in AARP's Age-Friendly Network. As a member of the network, the city made a commitment to actively improve the quality of life for the very young, the very old, and everyone in between. However, we know this is no easy task and requires the support of all city leaders. We're here today because we want to see the next City Council member of District 2 be a champion for creating an age-friendly Sacramento. So for this discussion, we'll be discussing livability issues within our city, and we'll ask our candidates how they'll serve the needs of the 50 plus on City Council. I'm here with Councilmember Alan Warren, who's running for re-election for City Council District 2, and we want to hear from him about his vision for the future of Sacramento. Welcome, Councilmember Warren. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, for having me.
Great. Well, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
As you may know, AARP represents 3.3 million members in California, and 70,000 of them live in the city of Sacramento. In 2 minutes or less, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for re-election in Sacramento City Council?
Sure. Well, my name is Alan Warren, and I'm born and raised in the city of Sacramento. I'm from a family of 8. I have 7 sisters. I'm the only boy, and I'm next to the youngest. So I have 1 younger sister and 6 older sisters. 56 years old, and I receive information from AARP every month, just about. So I'm very familiar with the needs of those of us that are aging and of age. But I am and have always been concerned about the betterment of what I consider to be one of the greatest cities in the United States of America. You know, being born and raised in Sacramento, I've seen Sacramento transition from a kind of a small country town with dirt roads and no sidewalks to now this right on the verge of just being this truly international type city. And in fact, it is international in several ways, including the wonderful diversity that's included in living in our city of Sacramento. And so I'm running for reelection because there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in District 2, but also in the city of Sacramento as a whole. As an elected official, we have direct responsibility for helping to manage the city's budget, which impacts all of its residents, including those of us that are 55 or 50 and over, in some cases in 55 and over. But I am a concerned citizen. I've been a constant contributor to, I think, the betterment of our city, and I want to continue doing what I've been doing, not just for the last 7 years, but since I've been an adult. I've been very involved and a giver in the city of Sacramento.
Great, thank you. Well, let's get into the issue of livable communities.
Sure.
Sacramento strives to hold the title of the most livable city in America. Where do you feel we are in meeting that goal? And what are your ideas for what needs to be changed, improved or changed about Sacramento to make it a more livable community for people of all ages and especially for older adults?
Well, again, I had mentioned that, I've seen Sacramento in various stages of growth. And, in my primary business that I've been in for 32 years, primary to running for city council, I'd been uh, in real estate development. And as a real estate developer, I'm very aware of a lot of the demographics and the development needs. And so what we've seen in Sacramento is we had seen, in the 70s, Sacramento was more of a sprawl type city that was spread out, a lot of big homes or bigger properties. So the lots would be bigger, even if the homes were smaller. And people needed to be in their cars to drive to various places throughout the region and the city. And then as we got into the 90s, this thing called smart growth started to really take shape. And, I'm proud to say that I've been one of the leading, not only advocates, but the leading producer of smart growth developments throughout various parts of the state of California. And, the drivers for that were to create more walkable, livable communities and also to reduce the carbon footprint. And so Sacramento has taken a huge step. One of the things that was a major focus for us to do uh, um, just that and create this livable city was to make huge investments in our urban core, like the Golden One Center. And so I chaired that committee for the city of Sacramento. So I essentially collaborated with all the partners to make sure that that was a good investment that would attract more housing downtown, that would put people in close proximities to places of work, restaurants, things that really create a vibrant city. As we have now come into this new dynamic of COVID-19, people are starting to rethink how close they want to live and be, just in proximity to one another. And so what we're seeing, and then we're at the early stages of this, but in most major urban cities, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, you're starting to see people move out of the urban core and looking for more traditional subdivision type housing. Ideally closer into the urban core, but not as in living in as dense communities as the trends were going prior to COVID-19. And so what we're seeing now is we're seeing a lot of growth in Sacramento. And that growth in Sacramento is coming from people from places like the Bay Area. And they want to be in a place where they can get more space. And so that's going to cause us to, again, rethink not just the business model, but health and safety and how that relates to all of the different demographic groups that are moving to Sacramento: culture, race, religion, but also as people age as well, and being in close proximity to medical facilities, grocery stores, things that people enjoy socially as well. And so it's a relatively new dynamic, but we're seeing major movement away from some of the things that people had planned years and years for to maybe a little bit more of a balanced approach.
Great, thank you. Well, my next question is on improving housing options and affordability. So as housing costs continue to increase, older adults may be unable to find housing to meet their needs. What would you do to ensure the creation of affordable and diverse housing options, such as accessory dwelling units, or housing that allows for greater accessibility and independence to help enable residents to stay in their homes and community as they age?
was several things, some of which we've already done, as the case in Sacramento, where we allow additional dwelling units now. And so that's happened since I've been on the council. And so it makes it a lot easier to produce an additional dwelling unit on a pre-existing lot. So that's one example of what's already taken place. But I think also as it relates to continuing to keep affordability in Sacramento, because it's an issue now, but it's going to get worse. And so I believe specifically as it relates to seniors, we need to start looking at programs like tax credits for developing additional senior housing. I think we have to do more housing where people can transition from one living arrangement to another, but in the same community, same neighborhood. There's several examples that exist of this right now. They're relatively new. Two that I'm very familiar with. One is in El Dorado Hills, and I'm involved in a project there. And the other one is in Sacramento, where you have various levels of housing for active adults all the way through assisted living in the very same neighborhood. And all of the demographics suggest that the senior population is becoming of age, and a lot of folks want to stay in an area that's comfortable to them. They want to stay in the same neighborhood. They want to stay in the same community. It's familiar to them. And as you age, those kind of things make a tremendous difference. And I will say that on a more personal level, I moved my uncle, who is 88, out of a facility into my home with my wife and family. And being in and around a comfortable, familiar environment has made a tremendous difference to someone who had transitioned from being very active, and with a short period of time, he needed a lot of assistance. And so my cousins, his daughters, put him in what they thought was the best facility, but it was new, and he didn't thrive. He didn't do well there. And so we took him out of that facility, brought him back to our house, and he is doing extremely well. And so mentally, I think there's a lot to be gained from familiarity as people age.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Well, our next topic is on improving our transportation policy. Transportation is a vital link that connects older adults and people of all ages, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds to healthcare, social activities, economic opportunity, and community services that support their independence. What would you do to create and encourage a range of safe and accessible mobility options in Sacramento, including shared rideables such as bikes and scooters, ride sharing, and even autonomous vehicles? And secondly, how will you ensure that pedestrians can safely use roadways and sidewalks in their neighborhoods?
Very good question. So again, since I've been on the council with others, we've implemented several programs that address this very specifically. Currently, we have what we call jump bikes, and so you can safely access a bike or a scooter and move throughout various parts of the city. We also have ride-sharing cars. Also, another way, a very affordable way to move around the city. The thing that we have not, I think, figured out, and it's really going to, I think, be led by the technology, and that's the autonomous kind of vehicles. I mean, there are some examples, but it's still in the very early stages. And the one thing you don't want to do is to scare people, and particularly older people, right? So you want them to be in a situation that's been tried and true and comfortable. And so autonomous vehicles is not something that I think has really proven to be a not just reliable, but a source of transportation that we have, or are prepared to, to move forward with at this particular time. But I'm sure it's coming. And so there's also mass transportation that's available. And a lot of people don't know, but we have the ability to get free and or reduced bus passes for people in our city that have needs. So they could be elderly, they could be very low income people, they could be people who have disabilities. And so we have that ability right now to provide and help. And then there's also the ability to have services that can come by and either deliver goods to a particular resident or say senior, or pick them up and take them to a location and bring them back. And I would just say I'm very proud to say in District 2, the district I represent, there's a group of men who has created a nonprofit organization to do just that. They deliver groceries or medicine or run errands for elderly and those that are shut in. There was a segment on Good Day Sacramento. I believe it was in March or April when COVID really broke out, because they were doing a lot of grocery deliveries to families that were more vulnerable and didn't have access or couldn't or should not be out during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we've tried to be progressive and provide options for people to help them receive all of the necessary things that were important to them, and they didn't have the ability to do it, or maybe it was financially a challenge, or it could have been for health reasons. But that service does exist as well in District 2 that supplement the other things that I've mentioned.
Great, thank you. Really good to hear. Well, our final issue is on community engagement. Our older adults, like people of all ages, want respect and want to be involved and ask their opinion on issues that impact their lives. How can city leaders, community organizations, and volunteers partner together to make Sacramento a better place? And if reelected, how can AARP work with you and your office to help achieve Sacramento's livability goals?
Sure. Well, obviously, now we have one set of circumstances, and it's going to change. But given what we're dealing with right now, it makes social media even more impactful, more powerful, because people don't get a chance to hold community meetings, forums, things that bring people together to talk about community issues. And so, I think one way to do it is to have consistency with your public information output, and also allow the input from people in the community that either have ideas, questions, or concerns. And so we do that pretty extensively. In addition to that, we have hotlines that you can call. Our office would be, it's a great way for AARP to work with our council office. Also, we put out a monthly newsletter. And so that newsletter has information about a lot of things, and it kind of depends on some of the major issues of the moment, if you will. So right now, there's a lot of information about COVID-19. There's a lot of information early on about food security issues, which is another major issue in District 2. We have had a variety of needs in this community that other communities have had. And so when I initially took office, things like food safety and District 2 being a food desert was much more of an issue, and even healthcare. And so I'm proud to say, like through our newsletter, we put out this information, like the new hospital that's going to open in District 2, and I think in about 30 or 45 days. We've opened, a number of grocery stores, and with more coming. And so, but that information is contained in the newsletter. And then we also have the various access points to our office. So through, email or Twitter or Facebook, we explain to people how they can contact us, and then also by phone. And so, and I'm in the community all the time. And so some people come by my office, and at least when COVID was not an issue, they would pop in, and we have regular invitations to the meetings now are virtual, but previous they would be in person for various groups of people, and we make ourselves available for that. And so, but there are any number of ways to communicate with our office, and we have a senior feeding program as well. And so a lot of information is disseminated through that program to, the senior part of our population, and also through churches. I think churches is another wonderful way to communicate to and through either the pastors or the elders, and we have a variety of access points through that community that touches a lot of people, including very substantially the senior population.
Thank you. Well, once again, we want to thank you for taking the time to meet with us and tell us more about your plans for City Council. As we close, do you have any final words that you'd like to leave our members and viewers with, particularly those who might be feeling alone or socially isolated, or even just in need to hear of some inspiration from our local leaders?
Absolutely. So, and I think that's an excellent kind of segue into my closing remarks, but we are seeing a lot of people that have some mental challenges, and they are feeling isolated. And so we're encouraging people to reach out to us, because we do have a hotline at the city, and we've recognized we've set aside resources for counselors and people to help people navigate through some of these challenges that are brought on by the isolation, not being able to move freely throughout town, can't see your friends and family members. And so it's very important that they access the additional resources and help that's available through our council office and through our city. And I'll just leave my number in case people have those questions. It's 916-808-7002, and we can definitely point them in the right direction and try to get them the assistance that they need. So, I just want to say, Jennifer, to you, and I know Mark is the technical professional there. I just want to say thank you. I think you two are doing a wonderful job. This is a wonderful service. I think people should be informed. This is a great way to inform a very significant part of our population, and we want everybody to feel connected. And I think what you're doing is helping quite substantially in that area. So very good, and I'm happy to be here.
Great. Well, Councilmember Warren, thank you so much for being here with us today. And to our members and viewers, thank you for listening to this important conversation. Before we leave, I want to encourage and remind you all to vote safe this 2020 election. Make your voice heard on these issues and issues that matter most to you. As a reminder, in Sacramento, there are more days and more ways to vote. Every voter will receive a mail-in ballot. In-person voting is expanded beyond Election Day, and you have the opportunity to cast your ballot at any vote center throughout the county. Additionally, if you haven't already, please register to vote today. For more information on registering to vote or how to vote, visit aarp.org/CA votes. Thank you.